So this brings me to another topic. So yesterday I had an awesome privilege of talking to Tom Bilyeu, the co-creator of Quest Nutrition. He started the company and sold it, I think, for $1 billion cash. He's worth $400 million. He's doing a live Q&A on Instagram, and he was selecting 2 people off the live feed to ask questions. I was sending my question in nonstop and I actually got picked. I was actually with my daughter. So I was talking to him live on the camera. That's what I tried to post. And it was amazing because he's someone I look up to, and I listen to his show Impact Theory every day. And I was trying to keep my daughter quiet as I had this one rare moment to try to ask this guy some questions. But my point in saying this is that he has experts on his show all the time. And one of them that I was listening to the other day, Peter Attia, I think I'm saying it right. If I'm not, I apologize. I'll tag him in this appropriately. But he's a top surgeon. He's also studies fasting and longevity. And you know, it's nice when you have a theory in your head and other people confirm it that are experts. So I always have a theory that, you know, how we eat, you know, really affects our mind and emotion through our gut, and it can cause anxiety or depression. And that's something that Jordan Peterson spoke about on Joe Rogan. And it's the question I had for Tom Bilyeu, because he mentioned that he noticed more correlations with artificial sweeteners and anxiety. And I just think it's an interesting thing to know, because we all have bouts of anxiety, and sometimes it's situational, and sometimes we're eating, and sometimes it's both. So my question to him was about, you know, how you eat in terms of how that affects your anxiety and keeping your gut healthy. And the other thing that he had an expert on the show talking about was that a lot of people overload their joints more than their muscle. And I completely agree. And I think so many exercises are harder on your joints than they are on the muscle. And if you're doing a sport like CrossFit or Olympic lifting or powerlifting, the sport requires certain motions, and that's fine. But I think the average person watches these top athletes in these sports and sees that this person has a muscular body and I want to mimic that, so I'll do what they do. But there's so much more to it. The average person, and Chris Tuttle, another great coach I work with, made this point because he hurt his back, couldn't deadlift for a while, and had some other experts that were saying, you know, is deadlifting the best to do to build your back if you have a choice of other exercise? And his theory is no. And I kind of agree with him. Deadlifting might be a great exercise, and it might be a mandatory for certain sports, but is it the best way to grow muscle on your back? And Chris has a tremendous back, and he hasn't deadlifted in some time. He does other variations on, like, you know, the different assisted deadlifting machines and stuff like that. But what I'm saying is, you don't need a specific exercise that other people would do to always grow a muscle. Again, to compete in powerlifting or Olympic lifting, you need to do a certain lift. In CrossFit, you need to do certain lifts. And I'm not, that's great, and those people master these lifts. But the average person watching that, I don't think the average person's like, oh, I want to have the best deadlift on the planet. They're just like, I want to put more muscle on my back. And there's a lot of ways to put muscle on your back. So going back to this whole thing is that a lot of people choose exercises that I think they don't need for their goal. If my goal is to grow muscle on my back, and maybe I don't have the best range of motion or thoracic mobility for deadlifting, but I see everybody that I look at doing deadlifting, and I choose deadlifting, maybe that's one of those exercises that's causing more stress to go on your joints and spine than it is on actual muscle tissue. So then instead, you know, you can pick a different exercise. Like we have a Sorinex Hurricane machine. There's a lot of these assisted deadlift machines. Dusty Hanshaw does, and Brandon Curry do deadlifts on like a belt squat machine. And they're just really smart variations, even doing rack deadlifts. And you can set up the rack at different heights, so it's like shin height. So again, you're minimizing stress on your spine, but loading your lats. There's just so many other good variations that you can really hit your back really well, and you know, and not overload the joints. So this is just to kind of get your mind thinking that if you're hitting a certain exercise and your goal is to grow muscle in the area, are you hitting the joints or the muscle more? And if something is stopping you, if you're failing at a certain exercise because your joints hurt, that might not be the best for muscle tissue. So again, kind of pay attention to the exercise you're choosing and spend a lot of time thinking about that. And that's why I'm a big believer in bands and chains, because bands and chains are that progressive resistance where your joints and your body is structurally the weakest, the band or chain is in the least amount of effect. Then as I get to my biggest, strongest position, okay, then the chain or band is the strongest effect. So the muscle is always under a constant stimulus while minimizing joint strain. And that's why I think it's a really creative way to train. You see even people doing reverse bands. So if I'm doing a leg press, a lot of my clients maybe can't start off the motion, so they have bands hooked up so they can start off the motion where they're the weakest, and then as they get stronger, the band stops working. So it's the same way you use a band, but the opposite way. So if I'm doing a curl, I could have the band in the bottom where my arm's the weakest and the band's not working. Then when I curl up, the band's in full effect and my muscles engage the most. Or I could do the other thing. I could have a barbell that's a very heavy weight, and I can have the band hooked up to the ceiling to the bar. And now again, it just helped me around the weakest and then not working around the strongest, or the other way around. I know it seems confusing, but bands work great both ways. You can do them in a reverse way or regular way, and they both accomplish the same goal. You want to have the band work the less when you're at the weakest range of motion and activate the most when you're the strongest, or if the band help you out of the weakest range and then not help you when you're the strongest. So either way, it follows a strength curve. So I think it's just a great way to think about training for longevity and minimizing joint pain and strain.